Welcome to Beyond Point to Point, the podcast where we go beyond pickup and delivery and dive deeper into the world of logistics, freight, and supply chain management. From industry trends to expert insights, we're here to help you navigate the complexities of modern shipping. Be sure to subscribe to Beyond Point to Point wherever you watch or listen to your favorite podcasts. And now, here's your host, Joe Greek.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Beyond Point to Point. I'm your host, Joe Greek, and today we're diving into a topic that sits at the intersection of stability and strategy, dedicated transportation and logistics. For shippers, the pressure to deliver on time, control cost, and adapt to market changes is nonstop. But many are finding relief not by doing more in-house, but by rethinking what they outsource and how. From dedicated fleets to full-service logistics management, today's solutions are purpose-built to reduce complexity while improving performance. In this episode, we'll explore the power of dedicated, both on the road and behind the scenes. We'll hear from experts who help companies build custom fleet strategies, manage major transportation transitions, and lead enterprise-level logistics without losing the focus. Let's get started. For the first point on our route today, I'm joined by David Fussell, Vice President of Dedicated Sales at Averitt. David helps shippers identify where dedicated fleet solutions make the most impact and what makes someone a good fit for this kind of a long-term partnership. We'll cover how dedicated differs from other freight models, what misconceptions still exist, and how Averitt designs dedicated setups that are flexible, scalable, and fully integrated into broader logistics strategies. David, thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Well, as our VP of Dedicated Sales, could you tell me the basics of dedicated transportation? How does it differ, per se, from traditional truckload or LTL?
Yeah, that's a great question. And dedicated is a term that's used loosely in the industry. But for Averitt, dedicated really consists of three things. It's contracted business, it's round trip miles, and then our drivers are permanently assigned to the customer's account. So kind of touching on those briefly. One, our contracts are very flexible, but we are under contract and dedicated for anywhere from 1 year up to, I'd say the average is 3, but we do have some that are longer. And then as far as the drivers, they're permanently assigned to the account. So we're not running drivers in and out. It's not with wild drivers, which is great for us. It's great for retention because the drivers love it. They know what they're going to do every day. And it's also great for the customer because they really build relationships with them. And then the second thing I mentioned was round trip miles. That is part of what we offer, and we will pick up vendor loads and returnable containers sometimes for our shippers. And then if they don't have that, if it's not a true 1-to-1 ratio, then there's plenty of ways to offset that with third-party revenue, which eliminates empty miles and helps offset our customers' expenses.
Well, let's say, for example, I'm a shipper and I'm moving lots of volume. At what point does it make sense for me to explore a dedicated transportation option?
Many shippers today are struggling with the challenges of especially operating a private fleet. So the three main reasons that a customer would want to go to an outsourced solution, number one is consistency, number two is liability, and then number three, but equally as important, is staffing. So when we look at the consistency and the demands that our customers face today from their customers, a dedicated solution is going to be a lot more consistent service. And then with the challenging of staffing, which everybody in the industry knows has increased rapidly over the last few years, our recruiting and retention is some of the best in the industry. Averitt, as you know, Joe, has put a lot into making sure that we have some of the best equipment and facilities, and also one of the best benefits packages in the industry. And then aside from that, on the dedicated side, the work is fairly consistent. So the drivers like that. And again, I think I mentioned this earlier, but the customers really like that. It allows them to build relationships with those accounts. And as a result, throughout Averitt, and especially in dedicated, our turnover is some of the lowest in the industry.
Well, I would make the assumption that outsourcing your fleet to a company like Averitt also brings a benefit of reduced liability on the shipper's part. Would that be true?
That's absolutely true, and that's a large reason a lot of shippers want to get out of the trucking business today. It allows them to focus on their core competencies and let us handle all the driver training, all the insurance requirements that come along with operating a private fleet, and more recently, the ever complex challenge of the hours of service requirements, which we handle through our onboard computers and manage perfectly.
We are very dedicated to taking care of our drivers, and when you're looking at a dedicated customer, we're taking care of their drivers, their associates, their image.
Yep.
And I know another aspect of our dedicated service offering is our equipment, and that we also do the repairs as well. So that's another element of dedicated services that we offer, correct?
Absolutely. And so a couple of quick facts. The average age of our tractors is around 2.5 years. In fact, in dedicated, I think it might actually be 2.4. That number moves a little bit, but it's in the 2.5 year range. So it's new equipment. We're not going to have that many challenges with it anyway. But when we do, yes, most of our facilities have full service shops. We can run in there and either get a quick repair, or if it's something that's going to take a little longer, we also have what we call flex equipment that's spread throughout the network. And so we can go in there and grab another tractor and repower quickly in the rare event that we have a breakdown. But again, at 2.5 years per tractor, it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and seeing some trucks on the road, you can see that there's plenty out there that are not at that age. So,
well, don't want to cast shade on any of our competitors,
Exactly.
But yes, we all see them running up and down the road.
yeah. Well, from the Averitt perspective, what is the ideal candidate for dedicated transportation? What do you look for in a potential customer partner?
Well, going back to our last point and seeing some of the older equipment on the road, if we see a customer that maybe we're doing some LTL or truckload with them, and we notice they have an aging private fleet, or when we're in conversations with these customers and hear about struggles that they're having in recruiting, again, aging fleets and maintenance is certainly a cost challenge to our customers, as well as the recruiting challenge that everybody in the industry is up against.
Well, when I think of dedicated, I just imagine it's this way to here and back and forth and forth. But I imagine there's actually a lot of flexibility that go into dedicated operations.
You're exactly right. And yes, dedicated 101 is point A to point B and back again. But in our case, that's not necessarily the case. We might go out and wind up at the end of a route, and then we'll run over and pick up a customer's vendor load and bring it back. Or again, we might go get a third-party backhaul to help them either offset costs or eliminate empty miles. And one of the unique things about Averitt, with our 5 verticals with LTL, truckload, our dedicated services, distribution and fulfillment, and integrated, we are able to tap into that, and we often do, to bring in drivers, tractors from other verticals to help rapidly respond to customers' either peaks or lulls in demand and make adjustments to those changes.
Well, you bring up a great point about our 5 different service units and talking about the integrated offering. So, and how our units work together. You can use drivers or equipment from other units as needed, especially during periods where maybe one of our retail clients needs to flex up during peak season. When it comes to other modes of transportation, such as drayage and things of that nature, are we able to integrate any of that, our different services together?
Averitt Dedicated is the second largest of the 5 verticals, and we are able to work in conjunction with the other 4, from port of origin all the way to the customer's distribution center. We can offer visibility to that through our TMS platform, which is Averitt Enterprise, track the container until it lands at the U.S. port, then offer drayage services from the port into one of our portside transload facilities. At that point, we can transload the container onto an Averitt dedicated trailer, take it to the customer's distribution center. So literally from shipment's point of origin to final destination, we offer control and visibility all the way.
Inbound to outbound.
Inbound, outbound, that's it.
Well, great. I really appreciate your time today, David. Thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Averitt has been delivering success for over half a century with passion, pride, and a powerful network. Introducing the Power of One, your single source for transportation and logistics. Our comprehensive services include LTL, truckload, dedicated, distribution and fulfillment, and integrated global solutions. But what truly sets us apart is our people, dedicated to serving you. For any need, local or global, trust Averitt, the Power of One.
Next, we're shifting our focus to the shipper's point of view. I'm joined by Matt Ehlinger, Vice President of Transportation at NCH Corporation. Not long ago, NCH made the strategic decision to retire their private fleet and partner with Averitt for dedicated transportation. Matt walks us through the why behind that decision, what the transition really looked like, and the difference it's made in their day-to-day operations. He also shares advice for other companies considering a similar move. Hey, Matt. Welcome to the show.
Morning, Joe.
Hope you're doing well. Before we get into the discussion about dedicated transportation, I was hoping you could tell me a little bit about the history of NCH and yourself.
Yeah, well, sure, be glad to. So, first of all, NCH is we're a global industrial maintenance products company, manufacturer. We operate probably in about 60 different countries around the world. Privately held company, and about 105 years old. So been around for a while. Myself, I've been here a few decades, somewhere in the 37-year time frame. So I have enjoyed my time here with the company and enjoyed being part of the logistics community for a number of years.
Well, being around NCH for close to 37 years, making the decision to outsource dedicated fleet operations doesn't really just come out of nowhere. So what kind of challenges or goals did you come across in your discussions internally that led you to the decision to outsource?
Yeah, that's a great question, Gavin. Just like a lot of private fleets, back after COVID, we had a number of challenges that we saw. First of all, driver recruiting was just tough. It's tough for everybody, but it was particularly tough for us in that we don't have a large private fleet. And so driver recruiting was something that you did on the side. That was number one. Number two, equipment sourcing, just the massive and quick rise in inflation for tractors, trailers, just the availability of it was tough. And then obviously the rapid increase in cost of insurance, an aging fleet, and a general kind of the liability exposure that we were operating a private fleet. All those kind of things were kind of what drove us down the path of, hey, we really need to get back into kind of the core competencies that we are. We're a chemical manufacturer, right? And we're a service company. And trucking was part of the way that we did business. It's not what we did for business. And so that's what drove this decision.
Well, that's certainly I think those are probably the most common pain points that we see with companies that are approaching us to outsource their dedicated fleet operations or to onboard completely new dedicated operations. So when you were going through the evaluation and decision-making process with Averitt, what really stood out for you during that?
Another great question. Couple of things that we looked at was, first of all, the flexibility in the way that the agreement was structured, the ability to scale up the fleet as needed, and we've done that since we've started. Simplicity in the agreement. It is amazing that you can make an agreement with a partner that's several pages long, not 40 or 50. Again, also the reputation that Averitt has in the industry, and the way that they approach business in partnerships. And lastly, kind of the whole revenue sharing structure that you're under. and on any backhaul opportunities that we have in the fleet. So those were some of the things that we considered and looked at when we were talking about what made Averitt separated from the other options that we looked at.
That's great. Well, now that you're about 2 years into using Averitt Dedicated, what have been some of the biggest differences or benefits that your team has seen?
Well, with number one, consistent service. That's one of the wonderful things that we saw out of it. The flexibility, like I talked about, the quality and predictable costs that we were looking for in operating the private fleet. So that we've seen that much so far since we've taken the fleet to the Averitt team.
Well, I know that change can sometimes be challenging. So dedicated fleets, whether you're outsourcing or just bringing a dedicated fleet in for the first time, that can be a big transition. So how has this experience been for your team and drivers?
Well, I don't need to tell anybody on this call or on this webcast that hey, change is tough for some folks, right? And there was part of it that was tough for us. And the thing is that 2 years into this, we now see that consistent service, that quality and flexibility of what the outsourcing effort has provided to us. That really was the right decision for us, for the company, for our customers. And then, so, yeah, there's some challenges with change. It doesn't matter who it is or with what partner you pick, but so far it's been a good long-term decision for us.
That is great to hear. And finally, for other companies that are looking or don't even know about potentially outsourcing their fleet operations, what advice would you give to them?
Well, when we saw this opportunity, there's a couple of things that we did. Number one, we kind of looked across the dedicated fleet provider industry. There's some very large fleet operators out there. There's kind of the middle market and then the smaller market. So we actually looked at all three segments of the business, talked to a number of providers in those segments, and each of those have their pros and cons, right? And so when we looked at it, put that all together, what stood out was Averitt's kind of established commitment to excellence, safety, and the way that they treat their drivers. Those are kind of the three things that really stood out. That's what was important to us. Also, the long-term financial stability that we saw in the Averitt team. So those were some of the qualities that helped drive that decision making for us when we finalized, the options that we looked at.
That's great. And I think we always consider our drivers to be your drivers in the end. And that's what it's all about, being a great representative of your business.
Absolutely.
Well, Matt, I really appreciate your time on the show today. Thank you very much.
Hey, Joe, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Efficiency, visibility, flexibility. They're the qualities every successful supply chain depends on. But achieving all three at the same time can be a challenge. That is, until now. Introducing Averitt Enterprise, an entirely new approach to transportation management. Turnkey simplicity, transparent costs, complete carrier neutrality, all driven by the best technology in the industry. Our cloud-based Oracle technology delivers perfectly integrated solutions at every stage of the process, from order management to shipment planning and execution to freight settlement and reporting. With Averitt Enterprise, each risk-free implementation is designed around a customer's unique needs, providing all the advantages of a third-party logistics model, but with the flexibility to choose your own carrier. Which means you can outsource all the planning and execution of your transportation operations to an industry leader with over 50 years of shipping expertise, while enjoying predictable costs, complete transparency, and total freedom. Find out for yourself what happens when best-in-class technology meets unequaled service. With Averitt Enterprise, the turnkey way to optimize your transportation management.
I'm joined by Russell Young, Director of Integrated Services Sales at Averitt. Russell leads Averitt Enterprise, a transportation management solution that brings together technology, team support, and process control to help shippers manage their entire network. He shares what makes Enterprise different from a traditional 3PL or brokerage, how it complements dedicated fleet services, and why more companies are leaning into managed transportation to gain visibility, flexibility, and strategic clarity. Russell, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
So you head up Averitt Enterprise, our dedicated transportation management solution. Can you tell me exactly what that is?
Yeah, so it is a managed transportation solution. We use a TMS as our backbone. We use Oracle, best-in-class TMS. So we're offering the best technology as part of that solution. As also part of that solution, we're offering the setup for that technology, and that requires us going in, understanding what the customer does, what they want to do better, and then setting that up. And then we'll offer some business process outsource solutions where we say you need an extra planner, or you need some people to audit your invoices, or maybe you need somebody to just track your shipments for you. We will provide the manpower for that as well, and then support the system. So yeah, kind of just a full sort of anything you need us to do on top of that technology.
Is that team that a customer would have, is that centralized?
Yeah, for the most part, our folks are in Cookeville, Tennessee. We are a little bit like dedicated in that some of our folks can be on site if that's necessary. For the most part, with the work from home movement or work from anywhere movement, we like to have our folks in Cookeville. It helps us with support and working through calendars, people being off and things like that. We've got a little bit of redundancy there.
Well, how does Averitt Enterprise differ from a traditional 3PL or brokerage?
One of the things that we like to be is carrier agnostic in the Averitt Enterprise group. We're not pushing all of our Averitt solutions onto customers. They don't have to use Averitt for all their solutions. Sometimes the Averitt solution doesn't make sense for the customer. So we obviously want to bring the Averitt solutions to bear, but we like for the customers to hold the carrier contract. So if they're using another LTL provider, if they're using another truckload provider, we want them to work directly contractually with that customer. It keeps us out of a couple things. Keeps us out of having to pay the carrier and wait for payment from the customer. And it also just keeps us pulling the rope the same direction with the customer. So that's the biggest difference. In the traditional 3PL model, there's usually a rate margin in the middle there. That middleman gets a cut. And that's not how we operate. We want a fair wage for the services that we offer, and then work with the customer to get the best rates for the best solutions that they bring to bear.
At Averitt, we do offer dedicated fleet services. Does that ever tie into Averitt Enterprise?
Absolutely. We were born out of the dedicated group. There are a lot of similarities in our services. The main ones being that we're a long-term contractual. It's not transactional in nature. We spend a lot of time on the front end understanding the customer and building a solution out. So you wouldn't want to do something, put pricing in place for 6 months for something like that. So it's usually a couple years to a 5-year contractual obligation and solution there. So those are some similarities, but we have deployed both offerings, dedicated fleet as well as the enterprise solution. One of Oracle's big strong points is dynamic routing. So taking a group of orders and building the best routing options. And when you're running a dedicated fleet, efficiency is king there. Obviously, quality and consistency and reliability of having your trucks, but you also want them running as efficiently as possible. So where we deploy enterprise, building the best routes, the best routing combinations, and then having dedicated do their thing, quality, service, right on top of that works really, really well.
I would assume Averitt Enterprise is not for every shipper. When it gets to the point in that company life cycle, what are the common pain points that they may be coming across where they need to begin asking themselves that I'm ready for this kind of a solution?
Yeah, a lot of times it's multiple DCs, it's multiple shipping points, it's maybe a vast network of vendors. that they're trying to get their arms around. And that's where a system like Oracle and the way we deploy it allows to take a lot of complex components, bring them in, normalize them, and make a lot of sense out of it, right? Like shuffle the deck a little bit, and all of a sudden now we have a real good network to work off of. So, a lot of the pain points are over the years we've heard things like I don't know that I'm getting a truck from a vendor until it arrives, at my yard, or things like I've been working through static routing of my outbound shipments, and it's becoming more and more inefficient because I'm shipping a little bit of this one day, I'm shipping a lot of this the next day. So using kind of the dynamic routing solutions there makes a lot of sense too. And then just overall efficiency, it takes a lot of people to audit invoices. It takes a lot of people to track shipments. It takes a lot of people to plan shipments. If you can build some technology in there and some efficiency in there, really can kind of help that. So the more complex, the better, really, for our solution. And we have a team of folks that have seen it all. A lot of different industries, a lot of different pain points, and we can really guide the customer to here's 2 or 3 options for you that will make your process a lot more efficient.
Oh, that's great. Well, the industry is constantly evolving, as well as technology. Over the coming years, where do you see managed transportation going in terms of its evolution? Yeah,
it's a good question. It kind of there's a few paths that these transportation managers or with our shippers take. One is just complete wash my hands of it, right? I'm just going to pay a 3PL to do it. I'm not going to think about it. I want to write 1 check a month or whatever. So just complete outsource. I think another one is they want a little more control and they want a little more visibility into what they're doing. So, one of the things that Averitt Enterprise offers is a little bit of best of both worlds, right? We will take the process improvement, we will take all those pieces, and then we'll also give you the transparency that you need. And so I think that's kind of where it's going. On one hand, it's a little bit of a pendulum with each shipper, right? If you were all the way into the 3PL bucket, you may have some pain points. You may be moving back into, I want a little more control. If you're all the way in that I have all the control and I'm doing everything, you may be moving a little bit back towards, gosh, I got to get some of this stuff off my plate and get some efficiency in my processes. So either way, everyone's looking at their technology stack and going, I need to improve that. And so systems like Oracle and others will allow you to bring in, the best of what SMC3 is doing, or the best of what some of the like Forkites and others are doing from a visibility standpoint. Bring those all into the technology that you have. And I think that's what they're looking for. I think Averitt's doing the same thing internally. Bring a good platform in and appify it, right? Bring some of the best apps that are out there, and as new apps come along, add that along. So I think it's a little bit of everything, but just incrementally improving your tech stack.
And that's more important than ever. So I appreciate your time today.
Sure. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Let's take a moment to recap. We started with David Fussell, who laid the groundwork for what dedicated transportation is, and how Averitt builds fleet solutions around each shipper's unique needs. He reminded us that dedicated doesn't mean inflexible, it means reliable, strategic, and built to grow. Then Matt Ehlinger brought it to life with a real-world example, walking us through NCH's transition from private fleet to a dedicated partnership, and how that shift has enabled his team to focus more on strategy and less on the daily grind of fleet management. Finally, Russell Young gave us a broader view of logistics management through Averitt Enterprise. From sourcing carriers to managing exceptions, Russell explained how shippers can offload the burden of transportation while gaining more control and insight than ever before. Thanks for listening to Beyond Point to Point. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, and we'll see you on the next episode.